Many people, we try to achieve goals and then we wonder, say, okay, I achieved that goal. Why can't I enjoy it? Or we're so kind of stressed all of our lives because I'm happy if I achieve this. I'm happy if I achieve that. When I finish school, when I have my partner, when I got my first car, my first flat, my first company, second company.
You want to distract yourself from yourself because if you're in the now, then you have to feel everything, then you have to be then your own mirror for yourself. And many people want to escape from this because of shame, guilt, and so on.
Welcome to Modern Enlightenment, a sanctuary for your soul, where we'll go on a path of personal and spiritual development. I'm Austin Mao.
And I'm Chuchu Wang. We are your companions on this journey of self-discovery and spiritual connection.
Join us as we delve into the fusion of modern psychotherapy, neuroscience, psychospirituality, and shamanic plant sacrament ceremonies, exploring the transformative potential of psychedelics for the mind, body, and spirit.
Our mission is to guide you to a place of profound awareness where emotions can be felt.
Together, let's illuminate the way to a brighter, more enlightened existence.
Modern Enlightenment, where your journey to inner peace begins.
All right, everybody, welcome back to an episode of Modern Enlightenment. I am here with Stefan and Isabella at Necker Island. And I was just sharing that the premise of this whole podcast is that 100 years ago, in order for us to walk the path towards enlightenment, greater peace and love in our life, we'd have to become horny monks on mountaintops. And now we are able to come to the top of Necker Island and do something. And so today we're going to be exploring psychedelics and leadership together. Yeah. I just wanted to make a quick introduction. Well, actually, maybe you guys can introduce yourselves.
I'm Stefan. I'm 53 years young and was working in psychiatry as a physician. And then I went to training and coaching for 2 decades and wrote some books, did some training coaching stuff, founded some companies. And I went into psychedelics 4 years ago because I discovered that this is the best way to not just heal, but also to develop, because we are so brain-driven, thoughts-driven. We always try to have control over everything. And what people experience is they get away from their pure essence. They just try to be somebody different. They get into some kind of a robotic state. You just adapt to circumstances in your life and you betray yourself. And what we do with many of the coaching techniques, we just help them to go on with the betrayal. And what was the most important revelation for me in the last years was psychedelics help you to become who you truly are. And then you are a better person, a better human being, you're surrounded by loved ones, and you are a truer self, and you become a better leader. And if we can help leaders in this world to change back to their true essence, then the whole world will be a better place.
Thank you, Stefan. Isabella?
Yeah, my story is I came in contact with psychedelics in the age of 14. And I could experience how trauma releasing it was because I grew up a few years in Chile and then I had to be in Germany again. This was instantly traumatizing me. And yeah, then I studied business psychology. I had in my early 20s, I had a very, life-changing, enlightened, awakening period of 3.5 months where I had a post-traumatic stress syndrome. I couldn't sleep for 5 days. I didn't eat. And then I was, sliding into the real reality, I would call it, the universal reality, and all the hermetic laws were shown to me. And then obviously I thought, I need to become a spiritual teacher because this is my mission now. I need to tell people. And so I researched and I found all the evidences about this in science. Then I founded a retreat center in the south of France where I led my own seminars and I hosted seminars from other teachers. So I learned a lot. I traveled to India to learn the ancient techniques as well. And then I moved to Mexico because I wanted to work with psychedelics on a larger scale. I was running a retreat there. He booked a retreat with me. We met.
I booked her as a coach, as my private coach first, and she did a very good job.
I can tell.
Yeah, and then he was asking me if I want to push forward the psychedelic movement, the Renaissance in Europe. And then I moved for that back to Europe. And now we're here.
It's beautiful. And for those that are audio only, here is what's called the Temple of Elders at the top of Necker Island, right? But I think it's really synchronistic that we're here right now because this space has hosted so much transformation that has had far-reaching impact worldwide. Did I remember correctly that one of the first gatherings here was a gathering of world leaders like Nelson Mandela, Barack Obama, etc. Before Obama, yeah.
Jimmy Carter, it was Bishop Desmond Tutu, and yeah.
Right. And something that really strikes me, we're in the Psychedelic Leadership Summit, and Richard Branson, I think everyone in this room would agree, is one of the greatest icons that I think many of us aspire to be, right? When we're in his presence, what I feel is his extraordinary kindness. And I can just imagine that the impact that he's delivering to the world is channeled through this kindness. Because how else could you gather so many iconic leaders together, right? And I wonder what your thoughts are on, as leaders, right? What is the direction that we get to go towards becoming an icon, towards being an inspiration to others? And how do you see psychedelics playing a role in that?
So I think we misdistinguish between what we are taught how leadership should be, because many people think of leadership like we have to be dominant, we have to be in a masculine energy, we have to push things through, we have to be hard and tough. And this, of course, causes a lot of damage with the people. And so we are also used to do all these top-down principles. I tell you what to do. This is my plan. This is my strategy. And if you go on a larger business scale, it's people want to earn money, which is fine. So, but what happens over time is that the purpose of a company gets hollow. It's empty. So people go there to work and they just work like robots. And they get to their working place in order to earn some money, in order to get the bills paid. And so this is a whole system of suffering, because when people are really into their work, if they really love what they do, and if you have a leadership culture where the leader is impersonating this kind of love to the mission, nobody cares for money. Of course, we need to pay our bills, but this is not the motivation that drives people. And so we should totally get out of this leadership system, which is just defined by numbers, reaching goals, doing strategies, all this, because to me, reaching goals is like personal growth thing. So usually we reach our goals when we have the time to develop, when we head into the right direction. And the question is, do leaders know their personal direction? Do they identify with what they are doing every day? Because as soon as you start losing your own path, or you just take the wrong road, then the people will feel it. And they will go to work when they were as childs, who they are in their true essence. So then everything can develop around that. And I think this is a total different principle from how companies are led today, because we jump in there in order to have a career, in order to be financially successful, in order to perform something. But if you take a closer look, if you dig deeper, most people just try to be like their parents wanted them to be, or like their spouse wants them to be, or like society wants them to be. So we are just like copies walking around. And true leaders, and I think this is the main difference between a leader and an icon. Icons are rooted in themselves. They know who they are. They don't do things in order to achieve something. They are the mission themselves. And this is what they impersonate every single moment in their lives. And there's so much thing about being kind, being authentic, being who you truly are, because you don't have to be aggressive if you are who you truly are, because you are living your best life, the best version of your life. And so this is what our work is about, showing people themselves experience who they truly are, so they do not have to have some masks or some roles they don't want to play in their lives. And so everything gets much more relaxed and everybody's happy.
The word that comes to mind hearing you share this is inspiration, or maybe passion, right? Who here has woken up in a day and hits the snooze button twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, because you just don't want to get up and do your work, right? Then 3 shots of espresso later, then maybe you're a productive human being. But who here has also had the experience where you didn't even want to go to sleep because you just enjoyed whatever you were doing so much? Who's had that experience, right? There's a really amazing book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. Some of you may have seen the cover. It's like a goldfish jumping from a small fishbowl to a big one. Has anyone seen that before, right? And Gay Hendricks talks about this idea of an upper limit that we can subconsciously have on ourselves. We can kind of detect it when, have you ever had the experience of something really incredible in front of you, but then somehow some anxiety pops up? Maybe it's like, oh, I forgot to pay that bill. And I remember yesterday with Andrew, he was looking at this expansive place, right? And just stunned by what was in front of him. But there was also a part of you that came out that was like, but why am I not able to fully enjoy this? Have we ever had that experience?
Sure. That is very important. Many people, we try to achieve goals. And then we wonder, say, okay, I achieved that goal. Why can't I enjoy it? Or we're so kind of stressed all of our lives because okay, I'm happy if I achieve this. I'm happy if I achieve that. When I finish school, when I have my partner, when I got my first car, my first flat, my first company, second company. So
You're distracted by yourself. You want to distract yourself from yourself. Because if you're in the now, then you have to feel everything, then you have to be like then your own mirror for yourself. And many people want to escape from this because of shame, guilt, and so on.
Totally. And that's what, the previous speaker shared about trauma work, right? And here's the interesting thing, like what we want to achieve, what we want to have, we don't actually want that thing. We want the feeling that we believe we will have when we get that thing. So when you want the promotion at the job, when you want the new house or the new car or the vacation, what you don't actually want that trip. You don't want that raise. You want the feeling of safety, of love, of connection, of peace, right? And so I think if you can really take that in, what's available to you is then to look at the obstacles, like why can't I feel that now? What's preventing me from feeling that now? And I think what was really special is that what psychedelics avails to us is the opportunity to feel that now, just lying on a fucking yoga mat, And then it creates what's in psychology we call an index experience. This is a new experience that we haven't had before, right? Previously, 100 years ago, you'd have to meditate your way for decades to get there. But now we can have that and recalibrate our compass towards that place. And what's so fascinating, I think that you're sharing, Pia, is that the recalibration of the compass isn't towards out there, it's towards in here. Yeah?
Absolutely. So, and also there's a problem. We all doing this meditation stuff, yoga. We all have written some self-help books, maybe went to seminars, talks, and so on. But so many people never had a reference experience before. If you have a reference experience of bliss, of pure joy, of pure being in the moment, of truly being who you are, and you feel that, you impersonate that yourself, then you have the imprint inside of you, and you can go back to that place in your whole life, because you always can calibrate yourself now. Am I feeling on the right path or am I going the wrong path? And as soon as we have this reference experience once, if you had that once, you can go back there every time. Personally, I like considering reaching goals like if you follow your inner compass, if you head towards a direction which is totally fitting to you, then you do not need external validation because you feel every day, every moment, if you're on the right path or if you are on the wrong path. But what if you never had this reference in your soul? What if your parents told you, be like that, don't be like this? If your teachers just told you, you're good when you're being good in math. If you're not good at math, you're not a good person. We all come through our traumas in life, relationship traumas, injuries, whatever. So we always try to calibrate ourselves from the outside. But this is the thing, and this is what we are talking about at this leadership summit here. It's the iconic leadership summit, because most icons, they just work the other way around. They first ask themselves, who am I? What do I feel? What is right for me? And then they have the bigger vision. They see, okay, we should do this in life. We shouldn't think like accountants, it's not about money, it's about the project.
And I think the missions from the icons, they are serving the collective. And their missions are bigger than their egos.
Yeah.
Right? This is very important, I think, to become an icon. The mission needs to be bigger than the ego.
Here's the thing. We have had this experience before, but we forgot about it because we had it in childhood. Yeah? When you interact with a kid, who here's talked to a little kid and just got into the most shocking answers? Like if you ask a kid, do you like me? They'd be like, nope, I don't at all. And you would never expect that from an adult, right? But what's happening in that moment is that kid is being fully authentic, no fear. But somehow along the line, our parents said, don't cry, don't be angry, put a smile on your face. And then in that moment, we started to doubt our own inner voice. And I think so much of the work that we can do now is to reparent ourselves so that we can feel safe enough to be ourselves in any given moment. The first emotional psychologist, Plutchik, created this beautiful emotional wheel. Have you guys seen it? It's like, here's the primary emotions: happiness, sadness, anger, disgust, so on and so forth. Secondary emotions, tertiary emotions, that gets more complex. And he says that love is equal to safety plus joy.
Oh, safety plus joy. Wow.
Take that in for a moment. Like, in order for you to feel love, you need to feel safe enough to feel happy. And I think that so much of the work that we do is in that seeking of safety. But it's not just seeking of safety from harm. I think it's also seeking of safety to experience myself so that I can feel like I matter, my feelings matter, that my existence is important.
Also, let's go back to the reference experience. When I started doing psychedelics, I was in a deep personal crisis. And there was one thing, one feeling I obviously had missed for a long time, which was love. And then I went to do that psychedelic trip. It was an ayahuasca trip. And I experienced hours of pure love. It was like I was filled up from the inside. And then I went out of that trip and I said, what was that about? If you have a reference of that feeling in your body, if you know what that feels like, nothing can harm you and you can truly be yourself. And there's nothing dangerous in this life if you had experienced that feeling. And all of us, we experience it in some ways. But life happens. We struggle, we fight, we hold on to things. And sometimes we forget how that feels. And what we experience in our psychedelic retreats, that people often come and there's just this one emotion, which is very, how you call it, emotion, whatever. If you feel love, some people just feel hours of love as well. And this is all we need in life, because now we get connected to ourselves, we get connected to the world, we are a part of the world, and we can truly dance through our lives. And this is something that attracts other people, because leaders, are you attracted to somebody? It's a frequency you send out, then you attract the same frequencies. And just imagine being a leader who sends out love because the leader is pure love. Then there's no job, no agenda, nothing. We are all just playing a common game together. And now life is fun. Now everything is development. Now everything is nature. Now everything is, it's one love. And this is what is possible with psychedelics. You just go in there and experience that feeling, and everything else comes from that point.
Totally. And what I'm hearing when you share about this experience of love, I imagine that when you were having that experience, it wasn't because you had a life partner next to you or your kids next to you or your parents with you. It was you loving yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I was the director of one of the most well-known psychedelic retreats for founders before. And we would have workshops before, and they would just say, just love yourself. Just love yourself, bro. And when I left that organization, I started really think about how. Like, how can I just love myself? It's really easy to say, hey, love yourself, right? But everybody tells you that. And I would posit to you that the way to love yourself is by fully accepting yourself. And the way to fully accept yourself is by this question that a facilitator once asked me, that's been one of the most important questions I've ever been asked. And I want to share it with you here. What are you willing to risk for freedom? What are you willing to risk to be authentic? Right? And if the answer isn't everything, then perhaps you can risk some more. Can you risk your attachment, your relationship, your business, your mission for you to voice something that is important to you, your feelings? And it's when we don't risk, and I stuck down the thing that was like, the dishes are dirty in the sink. And I'm like, man, I'm just not going to say anything because I don't want to start a fight. Who's had that experience before? Yeah? But if I was willing to risk and skillfully express my feelings, then what I do is, these two are laughing over here because they're like, damn, the dishes are still in the sink back at home. You're proving to yourself that your authentic expression, your feelings are important. And then to your point about attracting other people to you, it's also a filtering mechanism, right? When I started this work to now, my iPhone favorites list has swapped out like 3 times. Have you guys had that experience? Because every no that you have creates room for a yes. And what I hope for people is that through this work and through the constant risking, you're actually creating room for fuck yes.
Absolutely. Let me share one thought. If you tell people you just have to love yourself, in my experience, especially many leaders don't know what that means.
Totally, yeah.
Because they are trained to be successful. They do things in order to be successful. So that someday, maybe they be worth loving themselves, which is just meaning being loved by others, because they never felt loved before. And so this is the main feeling that you have to experience once. Love yourself. if you teach people you have to love yourself, we know it's blah, blah, psychology. Okay. If you never had this experience, felt and experienced, really deeply experienced, you can tell everybody love yourself and nobody knows what that means.
Some people, not even on psychedelics, can feel it. I had clients that were traumatized already in the belly. It started there. They came out, the parents didn't want them. And then even high dosages of MDMA, it didn't spread oxytocin, So this is impressive. And then we had to change the medicine. And then we went to herbal medicine and then back to, and after a while, the people said, oh, you know what? Today in the afternoon, I had a feeling of light inside my body. I mean, sometimes it takes ages to rebuild these, even the endorphins in your body, and this was very shocking for me.
This reminds me of a participant that came to one of our ceremonial retreats, also a founder, small, petite Korean woman, you could just imagine, right? Maybe 40s. And we do 3 ceremonies over 6 days. And in the first 2 ceremonies, she would just go like limp, like Gumby. Has anyone ever seen that cartoon? Right? Where they're just flopping around. And there was one where she actually collapsed into my arms on the ground. But she was so cute. She would just say, oh, I'm okay. Don't worry about me, as she's about to go unconscious. We did a workshop on a break day in between ceremonies where the invitation was just for 2 people to hold each other for 15 minutes to gentle music. That's it, right? But we're all playing the idea of being a parent and a child. And what clicked for her in that moment was the times where she felt the most loved as a kid was when she was sick. Yeah. And she came because she was having chronic illness. She was in and out of the hospital. But in the final ceremony, she was dancing, joyous, alive, and hadn't been back to the hospital. What's so crazy is that how our bodies pattern what love is coming from an index of what is comfortable, what is safe, right? And that's what Gay Hendricks talks about, is like subconsciously, we can have programming that says, oh, this anxiety, like I feel this in myself, this anxiety, this stress that I feel is actually something that is familiar to me because that's in the household that I was raised in. And so there's something inside of me that subconsciously seeks to orient myself back towards the stress and anxiety. And there's self-sabotage.
Absolutely. And not just self-sabotage. It's very important. Self-sabotage always kind of puts you back. It holds you back. And you can be seen as successful from the outside. Yeah. But many successes are just covered traumas. And I think that many successful leaders, many super cool career people are just doing their job because of their childhood traumas. They need to be successful in order that their parents give them attention, pay attention. So you were good at school, did a good job, blah, 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 blah. It's all to receive love and to feel love. And this is a difference between a true leader or an icon or somebody who is just like working like a robot and trying to fulfill some duties. It's like the whole life can feel like an empty hamster wheel. Yeah, you're just working. You have the most wonderful house, 3 cars, 5 cars, trophy wife, whatever, and you feel empty inside.
You're drinking yourself to sleep every night.
Yeah, drink yourself to sleep every night and you feel empty inside. What we understand, the difference between icons, there are healed traumas. This is true love. This is true passion. This is the true you. And this is what people orient towards because instinctively we feel this is kind of weird to getting to that bad trauma hamster wheel. And as soon as you start healing it, as soon as you start your healing journey, you feel drawn towards sane people, towards real, true, authentic people. And then life becomes very easy. It's like a dance.
I love that word easy, right? Like, I often ask myself, how can we move through life with greater effortlessness? And I think a lot, when I do coaching, I coach a lot on this subject of resting while we run, being able to be a very high performer while doing it easily and being rested. And my take on it is from that very early question of like, have you woken up and not wanted to get up versus have you not wanted to sleep when you felt inspired? And Gay Hendricks poses this question. Do you believe that you can be joyful in every moment of your life? Do you actually believe that, right? If you ask yourself, like, do you believe that you can be consistently happy? And when I asked myself that question, I realized I didn't believe it.
What I'm saying very often to my clients is that I strongly believe that we have in each moment only 2 choices, to feel good or to feel bad. And you just need to feel the ability to decide. And then you just decide. Yeah. And if you decide to feel bad, then okay, then there's a benefit behind, a secret benefit, what you also mentioned before. And if not, then you want to do the experience of feeling bad. And then it's a choice. And this is very important.
And this is important. If you go into a psychedelic experience, we are all inside our thinking roots. And we are all very narrow in our thinking. We have this ego system, this who am I? This is Isa, you are Austin, I am Stefan. This is the way things should be done. And we can rationally and we can, intellectually understand what this choice is about. But what happens under psychedelics in our experience when we do the retreats or the one-on-one coachings, as soon as people are able to zoom out of their conflict, as soon as they are able to see the bigger vision, to experience this episode of life or this episode of struggle just as a little piece of a huge puzzle in their life, just this one piece of the whole picture, they understand and they see the whole picture. They can get deeply connected to themselves and to the world outside. And so this one little piece loses its power. And this is what happens not only under psychedelics, but as psychedelics enhance this progress because they can open you up, they can show you your softness, your emotions, the bigger picture. And then you do not feel attached so much to that one little symptom. And then you feel, okay, I'm just a little boy. I'm trying to be nice to please mommy or my teacher you don't need that anymore. And then you do not need to suffer all the time.
I think the most important thing is that we realize that all suffering in the world is just based on one wrong belief, and it's the illusion of separation. And if we are standing in front of a person and we are not feeling separated from this person, and I do this quite often, that if I feel strange, then I know, okay, it's because I feel separate now. So then I focus on my energy field, and then I'm melting the energy field into the other person, or then I'm feeling that I'm changing the belief that I'm separated. And then we are one, and then everything changes, and my body feels cured and soft instantly.
I love that. I think that speaks to the value of group ceremony too, because each of us can present mirrors for one another, right? Some of the opportunities that present itself in ceremony is if someone over there is crying really loudly or laughing really loudly, and then suddenly in my mind, I'm like, man, I wish that wasn't happening. Well, what's that like for me to feel? And earlier when you said you have two choices, feel good or feel bad, I would posit that the choices for me is, do I feel or not, right? Can I release the judgment of something being good or bad? Because when you think something's good, you want to move towards it. If you think something's bad, you want to move away from it.
No, but you will feel, you can't cheat yourself. Like you can think, oh, this is good for me, but then later, it was maybe a toxic reward, for example, but then later this has negative consequences. So if you're honest to yourself, it wasn't the right choice. Yeah, and so like this, you can improve. You just need to reflect yourself.
Totally. What I'm sharing is just the very nature of feeling and allowing the feeling, whether I'm feeling anger or fear or shame or guilt or whatever, but embracing that feeling and moving deeper into it. What I've experienced can unlock is that I just appreciate feeling in general. I had a Bufo ceremony. Bufo is like the most powerful psychedelic known right now. It's almost like a 6-hour ayahuasca experience compressed into 15 minutes. It's intense. And this was a couple months ago. And I took a deep breath in and I just felt everything I experienced in my entire life, like flow into me like a waterfall, like a dam was released. And all the grief, all the pain, I lost my dog in December. I losing a marriage last year, lost my father years ago. And all of it penetrated me in one instance. And I just screamed, life, yes to life. And then I was pounding my fist on the mattress saying life. And then I ended up curled in fetal position saying fucking life. It's so hard, right?
This is very, very important because I think subconsciously, a lot of people, they don't want to be alive, because we don't remember that we choose to be here. I'm sure we choose at one point, but we can't remember. So it feels like plop, and then you are there. And then you have to deal with it. Then the trauma shocks are coming. And then you feel like you have to survive, And when I had the chance to make this decision consciously, I want to be alive. I'm happy here because maybe afterlife, you are pure consciousness for thousands of years until you reincarnate again in a body and you can make all these experiences. So no, whatever I feel, I'm very thankful for, to feel. So this changed so much in my life. Like I lived so much more effortlessly, And whenever I found myself in a situation which felt uncomfortable, I remembered, no, I can feel, I have a body. Thank you. So, I think this is very essential.
And also, I think the fear of living, it's starting from a certain age. We all develop to a certain point, and then we start our careers. We have one business, we have our own business, or we are in a leadership position or whatever. And what starts from that, from a certain point, is some kind of a saving mode. So we develop, we learn. And many people, there's this one point when they start, and now I've arrived. I have my company, I have my business, and then the inspiration gets lost. And this is what never happens with true icons, because they know, okay, as soon as I have achieved something, I'm not in the mode of keeping it, but it's still a development. And if you are afraid of developing, then you are afraid of life itself, because life itself is development always. It's changing all the time. And so this is an important point, I think, for many entrepreneurs, because they come to a certain point, and what is intriguing to me, so they are so successful from the outside, making millions of dollars, and feel empty inside. They say they're just in the mode, okay, I know my business, I'm in this or in that, or I'm doing this since many years, and they lost the sparkle in their eyes. They lost their...
And maybe they forgot the Maslow pyramid. What comes next, the self-fulfillment, the self-transcendence.
Yeah, and this is something that happens to many entrepreneurs. So what is life? It's working out fine. So what's next? So most people try to save, or many people try to save where they are, then they just are awaiting death. So then, okay, someday I will die, and then they have achieved a lot until a certain point in their life, and then they lost it. And so what we experience is when people come to that point, and you show them through a psychedelic experience, okay, you can do some more, they are inspired again, are motivated again. I could share so many stories. One little story, there was an IT entrepreneur. He was very successful. He was in the early 60s, and he founded many companies around the globe and no financial issues. And he came and said, okay, Stefan, to be honest, there's this one project I would love to do, but I feel too small to do it. I feel something holds me back. And then he went into that psychedelic journey. And now he's in the beginning of his 60s, and he's starting the project of his life. And it's like the whole life is injected back into him, and he inspires people by this project. I obviously cannot tell about the kind of that project, but this is what psychedelics can do to us, and this is what psychedelics can do, especially to leaders who want to be truly successful, feel successful, pursue their purpose in life, and go to the next level. And this is what it feels like to be alive. And this is why we are here. This is why I think all of our avatars, if you can call us like that, should have this kind of experience.
I love what you just said. This is what it feels like to be alive, right? And I've heard gratitude defined as experiencing value in something. Yeah. What could be more valuable than the experience of great peace or oneness or love that some of us may have experienced recently under psychedelics? And, every spiritual path culminates in service, whether it's Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, they all talk about service. And I believe the reason for that is because what we get to do is share with other people this experience. They are our own gifts, right? Because what that leads you into is a life where you can live in gratitude more often because you are sharing with other people. Your gift to the world is that experience. And so I just want to conclude on this note that, first, so grateful for each of you here and the mirrors that you are for me and the opportunity to serve you. And as we, go forward into our normal lives and Zoom calls and accounting and balance sheets, I hope that the big takeaway here is that live your life and enjoy your life.
Perfect. Thank you. That was awesome. Yeah.
Thank you, Stefan and Isabella. And for those listening on the podcast, if they want to find more information about Reality Upgrade or about you guys, how can they find out more?
reality-upgrade.com/EM or psychedelics-leadership.com.
All right. Beautiful. Thank you, El.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Modern Enlightenment. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to check out our website, subscribe to our online community, and check out our social media links in the show notes for more resources and updates.
And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast to stay connected with our upcoming episodes, where we continue to explore the intersection of modern science and spiritual wisdom. Until next time, Stay curious, stay inspired, and keep shining your light.